You want to see how we do it in the pros?
Changing your swing is about repetition without repetition. You don't just hit 500 balls with this thing and change your swing. You also don't just hit 500 balls without a thought.
Welcome to Earned Not Given.
Casey, what's going on, man? Obviously, we got a lot going on in the world of golf. Seems to be a resurgence of the one and only Anthony Kim. Everywhere you look, everyone's talking about AK coming back. Just wonder, do we care? Don't we care?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So for me, he was gone before I really started getting into golf. So this is like an introduction to AK for me. So I've been like diving deep a little bit on YouTube and figuring out. So seeing him on the range with the full sleeve and the long hair I like it. I think it's sick. So I'm pumped. I hope I think the bad thing for Liv would be him come out and shoot like 75, 75, 75. Like he needs to do something to give a spark, I think, or else people are just going to complain.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously everyone knows the story, but guy hasn't played a golf tournament since 2012, right? Quail Hollow. Back in the day, he was the man, notorious for gripping down on the club about 3.5, 4 inches, big belt buckle, big swag. Nike toted him probably as the next guy, right? Coming up in that Tiger era, trying to be a little bit different. Then he gets hurt, takes an insurance claim, and we haven't seen him in a long time. So obviously there's speculation. Is he going to play good? Isn't he going to play good? My concern, though, is that this is just feels a little bit like a media play instead of what's great for him. I don't know. If he's getting a huge bag of money and he goes out and he balls out, awesome. If he's getting a huge bag of money and he looks like one of the original guys that went out there that kind of supported the narrative of this is the place for the guys that's careers are over, this is the place for the underachievers, which, to be clear, I do not believe that that's what Liv is anymore. The timing of this just feels wrong. Liv was just starting to become something that we all wanted to tune into, to watch Jon Rahm, to watch Taylor Gooch, to watch Charles Howell, to watch Bryson, to watch Brooks, to watch Joaquin. Like, you can just keep going down the list. It wasn't just a graveyard for careers. So what are we doing with Anthony Kim?
Yeah, I think that's why I say, like, he has to play well. I just feel like if he doesn't, the narrative isn't going to be like, yeah, it's great that we got AK back. Because that is what the narrative is right now. But, like, come Friday, if he shoots 1 million, like, it's just negative press for Liv. Where, like you said, they've been building. Every event this year just keeps building, keeps building, keeps building. It's awesome. You know, there's another storyline for us to watch Liv golf this week. But if it doesn't pan out, what are we saying on Sunday afternoon? You know what I mean? Are we back to where, like you said, like we're like, oh, the Liv Tour is not, almost like just not serious? Because for a long time, that's what they were fighting.
Yeah, and now it actually is impressive, right? The guys in their off weeks, which is pretty cool how Liv's schedule falls, right? And then these guys are still competing, and they're not just competing, they're winning, right? In the last 2 weeks, we've seen Joaquin Niemann get a special invite to play a small little tournament in April called the Masters. We see Carlos Ortiz win. We look at the qualifying series for the Open Championship. They've all been won by Liv guys. And now we got a guy on the range in a T-shirt with a ponytail talking about changing the game. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, again, I'll just keep saying it. They're going to look like geniuses if he plays well. I honestly, like, this could be a one and done. Like, if he plays bad this week, you might not see him play again.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest, probably more emotional about it than I should be because I'm older than you. So when I was coming up and golf started to become cool, Anthony Kim was cool. The guy plays in a Ryder Cup. The guy has multiple wins. He's the next great thing. And then he disappears and doesn't play because, in my opinion, he took money to not play. Now he's taking money to play. I don't know. If he balls out, cool. If he doesn't ball out, fine. I'm just telling you, there's just not a good taste in my mouth about this. And I don't want to keep talking about Anthony Kim, but I just felt like we had to talk about it because you see it everywhere. Cool. Amazing that he's getting an opportunity. Just the wrong time. Like, this tour was just starting to not feel like a sideshow. And this feels like a sideshow.
Speaking of sideshows and maybe wrong timing, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, obviously, but we haven't talked about what Tiger withdrawing, at the Riv. What do you think about that? Obviously, they come out, they say he has the flu, and I'm not saying that he has to be Michael Jordan and have a flu game tournament, but with everything he's battled back from and the things that he has done in his career and played through, strange that he didn't play through the flu. So what I'm getting at without saying it is, do you think there was anything more to him withdrawing from that tournament than just the flu?
No, I mean, Tiger's up there with, God for me. So do I think that Tiger withdrew because he wasn't playing good? Definitely not. Do I think Tiger withdrew because of an injury? It didn't look like that to me. And I'm certainly hopeful that that's not the case, right? The fact that it was influenza and he had to withdraw kind of makes me excited because we might be able to just roll down the street and watch him play at Bay Hill. We don't really know when he's going to play again, but he needs to play before Augusta to make people really understand that this wasn't something more than the flu. I'm excited for Tiger to compete. I'm also excited to go back in time and remember Tiger could barely walk and still contended in tournaments. So, yeah, if the guy withdrew from the flu, it's fine.
So, yeah, my worry was I don't think he would ever withdraw from bad play, and I don't think he was actually really playing that bad, to be fair. A lot of guys were shooting, big scores at that tournament. So, I was just worried about the ankle, back, knee, something. I thought maybe there might be something underlying. And again, I'm in the same boat as you. I hope that's not the case. And everything that's come out seems to be that it's not. So, yeah, I look forward to him playing again. Do you think, you said Arnold Palmer, but do you think Arnold Palmer or the players or both? I would doubt both, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tiger's been the most protective of that information for the longest time. So when we see Tiger, I'll be tuning in.
Do you have a preference? If you could pick one, if you could pick to see him play at Bay Hill or at Sawgrass, what are you picking?
I mean, he's had great success at both. I think Mr. Palmer is why the game has evolved into what it is today. Do I think it would show respect to the late Mr. Palmer if he rolled up and played at Bay Hill? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat with everything going on, and you've touched on this about how those guys, Arnie, Jack, changed the PGA Tour, and now it's changing again, and Tiger's kind of at the forefront of trying to establish what the tour is going to be in the future. I think it would say a lot if he showed up to that tournament and played. Obviously, it would be cool to see him play Sawgrass. It'd be cool to see him play any tournament, but for me personally, it'd be really cool to see him play the API.
Yeah, it'd be great. And let's hope we get there, right? We've got some tournaments this week. I know we went on a tangent there about what Liv's doing, but this coming week, do we need to really recap what happened last week? I think it's great for Jake Knapp to win, and it's amazing. We had a former student from the academy playing it, Jose Antonio Safa. I think it's amazing that Santiago de la Fuente, the kid that just won the Latin American Championship, played amazing. I was really excited to see Alvaro Ortiz, a Mexican-born player, contending there. Unfortunately, he didn't play that great on Saturday, but he did bounce back and finish, top 12. So that was great. Other than tuning in to see Alvaro and checking Antonio and Santiago, I got to be honest, I didn't watch much of the golf this weekend.
Yeah, same. I'll just be honest with you. Spring training started this weekend, so I was pretty locked into the Yankees and Juan Soto. So I was more interested in that. And I think I don't want to keep doing this PGA Live thing, but like that is, I almost wish Live would have had an event this past weekend, just because the tour has to figure out something with these events. We've talked about there's got to be pathways for guys, and I 100% agree with that. But we also got to get some guys to play some of these smaller events still too. I know everyone's going and they're trying to play the elevated events because of the money and all that, and I get it. But I'm not going to lie to you. The average golf fan thought this past weekend was a snooze fest, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, I think I'm probably on the other end of that, though, that we were talking about there has to be pathways for the up-and-coming players to get there, right? And if you look at Jake Knapp's career, and I think it's an amazing story that, 2 years ago he was working security at a bar, worked his way through some of the smaller tours, then played on the Corn Ferry, worked his way through. And if you look at these guys that are contending and competing in some of these smaller events, that is exactly what we're asking for. So for me, I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't enjoy the opportunities that these players have, because it's amazing. Jake Knapp went from working security 2 years ago to now winning to now a pretty sick venue to play in April. Like that's a great story.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. I mainly mean more for the average fan. Like, for instance, if there's 100% of the golf fan, right? 30% probably was locked in this weekend. Maybe. That might be high. The other percent doesn't even know. So when he plays at Augusta, they're not going to be locked in. So my thing is like, yes, have that tournament. Yes, make it a bigger field. Allow that for someone like Jake Knapp to go on and win. But we've got to get some of the bigger guys playing these events, because that's who brings the eyeballs. I mean, again, I'm all for guys getting to be able to play in these elevated events and make money and make a name for themselves. But the reality is we have to get eyeballs for that to really happen.
Yeah, it's just at the wrong time of year. It's a fall swing event, and they're putting it in the middle of the season because it's giving guys an off week. So you can't not have a tournament. So you have one of these smaller events. It gives guys an opportunity, helps them in the reshuffle. There's a lot of benefit, right? They got to do a better job with the TV coverage too. Like, I thought it was cool that they had them walk and talk, and Matt Wallace was amazing, right? Hits it in the water and he still talks to them. Like, that's great, but the product has to get better so that people start to enjoy watching some of these smaller events instead of, if Tiger or Rory or name that big name player that you support, if they're not playing, I'm not tuning in. That's not really what we're looking for, right? If the PGA Tour could start to do a better job of doing what we're about to experience for all of us in college basketball coming up, the Creightons of the world, right? Yes, of course, we all want to see, does UConn defend, or what are those power programs doing? But it's the underdogs. It's the St. Mary's of the world. It's the Gonzagas that get us excited about that tournament. So they just have to call it what it is.
You know what, that brings up a good point. So we have the FedEx Cup, right? Maybe the playoffs in early fall. Should there be like so I'm a Marshall fan. They're a G5 school. They play in the Sun Belt. At the end of the year, if they win the Sun Belt Conference Championship, they get to go into March Madness, right? Should there be something like that in golf? Like,
yeah, it's called Q School.
Well, no. I'm even meaning on tour. I'm talking like I have something. It makes it worth watching the Sun Belt matchups for me because it means something. There's like something that Marshall's playing for. Whereas Jake Knapp, right? He wins. He's going to get to do all that stuff. But what about the guys that, like you said, finish top 12, top 10?
Well, top 10 they get in for next week. So there's a big deal for that difference between 12th and 10th. But what I would say is, yes, maybe there's ways to do that. But let's not complicate the already broken system. Let's try and make the system better, right? So you kind of have two snoozers in a row, if I'm honest. You have Mexico, and then we have, I'm just going to call it the Honda, right? So you have that tournament, and then we get API, then we get players. It's like, it would have been better to have one of those big events, then an off week, then a bigger event, instead of two in a row. But obviously I get it. The guys that are making all the decisions or influence everyone, they wanted 2 weeks off at this time. Now, on a completely different note, did you watch last night? Didn't you watch last night? We had the match going on.
Yeah, I watched a little bit, saw some highlights. That Rose Zhang recovery from, I don't know what, like the waist area on the right there was insane.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously tuned in to see Rose because, you know, we've got some guys on our staff that are helping Rose behind the scenes. I think I'm becoming less and less of a DJ Khaled fan. This guy rocks up in the middle of the warm-up and just starts hitting balls because he can do whatever he wants. He's talking through, and he's just so proud that he beat Charles Barkley. Like, I don't know.
So yeah, so that's another thing too. This is another, I saw it again last night on social. It almost feels like that waste management vibe again, where they're talking about how the game's grown and maybe it's growing too much is it the thing I'm seeing. Now, I want to go out there and say, I don't think that's possible. I don't believe the game can grow too much. Now, what was DJ Khaled doing last night? I have no clue. No clue.
I can tell you what they're doing. The industry is starting to realize that the average golf fan tuned more in to the good experience in the desert than they did to the waste management. So now they're trying to find ways to pull people. Instead of just leaning in to say, hey, our product is awesome, we are the PGA Tour, or we are Live, or we are YouTube. But let's not all try and be good at everything. Like, the PGA Tour just needs to be good at the PGA Tour. That's it.
And, you know, with that in mind, going into this week, there's more names in it, I guess, but like you said, it's a smaller event. What I kind of want to talk about this week about this event is they lost their sponsor last year. Now, there's a lot of money that has come into the tour since then, things I think are going to possibly change as we see going into next year. Where's your head at with the sponsor change? Do you care? Are you worried about those types of things? Where's your head at with that?
I mean, I think you're always going to have those tournaments, right? The Arnold Palmer is one that, like, that's always going to be the Arnold Palmer, and it's always going to be synonymous with Arnold Palmer. This tournament was always kind of synonymous with the Honda. And now that it's not, it kind of feels like it's just going to slowly go away. I know that it's, you know, an event that's dear to Jack Nicklaus's heart. So I think that's why you see some guys still participate and show support, which is amazing. But yeah, I don't know where we're going with sponsorship money, what we're doing. It just seems to me like there needs to be more and more reason to look back at how ridiculous June 6th was, where we said, oh, we're going to have this agreement and Yasser and Jay are going to get together and they're going to figure it out. That couldn't be farther from the truth. And everything that they said they were going to do, they haven't done. So are we trying to make the divide bigger, or are we trying to find ways back? And I think we have an amazing opportunity right now to start to find ways back, right? The Augusta giving an invite to Joaquin was an amazing way back. The opportunity to see a bunch of those relevant guys on Live compete in April in a major is going to be awesome. These smaller events, they're not as relevant to me. I'm more worried about the macro than the micro.
I don't know if you saw, but Taylor Gooch had some comments that came out today about I don't know if I'm saying it right, but basically was if Rory wins Augusta this year, there'll be an asterisk by it because not all the best players are playing. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think the majority of the best players on LIV are playing. Yes, there might be a couple players that don't play, right? But it's a very small field with very clear criteria to make it. So do I think that that statement is true? I don't know, right? I don't know if Taylor Gooch is one of the best players in the world. I kind of like that he thinks he is and he put it out there. I guess that kind of takes away the speculation that everyone was talking about, Chubby Chandler saying that Rory's going to get a huge bag and go to LIV. Well, I don't think they would be doing this if that was in the works. Do I think there's an asterisk? No, I don't think there's an asterisk. Do I think that Rory's going to win Augusta? Probably not. So I don't think it's really even a conversation. If I was Taylor Gooch, instead of saying those things, I would make myself so relevant that next year the committee decided to give him an invite.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think Taylor got hot there for a bit and played some really good golf. And I'm glad that he thinks of himself like that. I think that's, and I would assume you would agree, that's probably the only way to be one of the best players in the world. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that it wouldn't be a full-fledged win for anybody who won it. Like, him saying that, like, what if Joaquin wins it? Is it an asterisk if Joaquin wins? I would say no. What would Taylor Gooch say?
Yeah, I mean, that's why those statements are there. But again, a lot of these statements are embellished, glorified, again, just trying to make stories about things that aren't stories. We're closer to that one world tour than people really understand. I think we saw that with some of Rory's comments recently about explaining how it's like Premier League football and Champions League football. So, yeah, I just think it's the media, again, just doing the things that they don't need to do.
So, yeah, let's get off of talking about some of the more, I guess not negative, but not the most happy things. Let's talk about our picks for this week. Ricky's my 1B. Ricky played okay at the Riv. He didn't play bad. He had spurts of where he was like really hitting it well. He was rolling the rock, but back nine got him a couple of times on the weekend. But it seems like he's trending. So as a fan, that makes me really happy. He's my 1B. He's won here before. Then for Liv, I'm going with the DJ back-to-back. Going to go with 4 aces to take the team event. Dude, DJ's just been playing good. He said it earlier this year on a social that this was going to be his year. It really does feel like it. It looks like it. The 4 aces are also playing well. A player who's really shocked me is HV3. So I'm looking forward to watching him play. I'm going to watch both events this week. Tell me who you got.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is always a fun week for a lot of these guys because it's a home game, right, for most of them. So sleeping in their own bed, knowing the golf course, being prepared, all the benefits of being at home can sometimes work in guys' favor, but sometimes it also doesn't. So for me this week, I think I'm going to go with someone that's been really trending and looks like they're about to break out. That would be Erik van Rooyen. He would be my first one, and I would say another player that is extremely hot right now and looking amazing would be Christian Budenhazen. And so, sorry about my pronunciation, but I think both of those players are moving in the right direction. And when you look at, I'm not going to call it what it is, when you look at the Honda, in the history of the Honda, it has been an opportunity for a lot of breakout wins. And I think, not that Erik needs a breakout win because he's already had that, but I think his game's in the right place for PGA National. When we look at Liv, I'm going to go the other direction. I really think that the Crushers are going to win as a team. And I think that's going to be not only because the entire team plays well, but I think Bryson takes it home this week.
Yeah, it's a great pick. Another guy's been playing good too. Final group in the last event. Yeah, and something maybe we need to talk about on the next pod is talking about how guys like Bryson are really growing the game on social and the things that they're doing on YouTube and things like that. Like, shout out to Bryson, man. He's really been making golf fun outside of events, and I just think that's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great initiatives out there, and there's a lot of great dudes, whether they're in one logo or another logo. There's just a lot of these custodians of the game that are doing a great job, and Bryson is the man. I think he's one of the best players in the world. I think he's also an extremely genuine person, and yes, his social media is awesome, and I think it gives people an opportunity to see who he is. But I really would love to see his game trend in the right direction. I'd like to see him not just contend, but win a major this year as well. I think he's been on an amazing journey, and he deserves it.
Yep, I agree with everything you just said. Any closing statements before we wrap this thing up and I go eat food?
No, I mean, I think these are sometimes the pods that I don't always enjoy, right? Because I don't want to sit here as a coach or someone that has a vested interest in the future of the game to sit here and pontificate about Liv versus PGA or this versus that. So I really want people to understand that's not what we're going to do. We're just having to talk about certain things that are relevant. Anthony Kim rocking up in the desert is relevant, just like the golf this weekend is relevant. So if you're a golf fan, I would encourage you to pay attention to the smaller stories. The Jake Knapp story, right? The Carlos Ortiz winning on the Asian Tour. The Joaquin Niemann getting an invite to Augusta is not a little story, but it happened because of what he did week in and week out when he was away from the big tour. So that's exciting for me. There's a bunch of smaller name guys coming up from Korn Ferry that have an opportunity this week. So it's going to be a good event. And I think we'll all obviously be tuning in to see, is this publicity stunt a good one or a bad one?
Yeah, I'll close with saying too, you and I both like both tours. I don't think either of us pick one or the other. We both watch both tours, and we both enjoy both tours. We'll talk about it when there's relevant stuff to talk about. We won't when there's nothing to talk about. We're not just going to sit here and make stuff up. So, yeah, I don't want anyone to think that we lean one way or the other, because we don't. And this has been true before we even had the podcast when me and you talked golf. Like, neither one of us cared one way or the other. We just enjoy both tours and enjoy guys on both tours. So, we'll talk about stuff when it comes up, but like, we're just talking about it. We're not
for sure. And I'll do a good job in the future of trying to bring perspective from both tours, right? I think it's important for us to have coaches on here that coach players on both tours to maybe help people understand really that it's not that much different, or the benefits of one versus the other, or the reasons why their players switched, right? We'll try and get some players on here too as well to talk about that, because I think the bigger reason why people go is because they're betting on themselves. Whether it's betting on themselves to do what Joaquin did and end up back in the majors, or it's betting on themselves to contend and have an opportunity to compete against the best in the world. So, again, a long-winded way to say, let's hope golf wins this week. Let's hope that, again, I dominate you in the picks. Obviously, it's going to get exciting here as we start to ramp up for the Masters and it starts to become major championship season. So now everyone's starting to really be a golf fan.
You want to see how we do it in the pros?
Changing your swing is about repetition without repetition. You don't just hit 500 balls with this thing and change your swing. You also don't just hit 500 balls without a thought.
Welcome to Earned Not Given.